Hello and welcome to Translating Insanity. My name is Charlie Wolf and I am here hoping to help others feel more seen and less insane and to help foster self-compassion within myself and others. So let's get started. There's something that Stephen Colbert has said about his history that really resonates with me. He lost two brothers and his father in a plane crash when he was 10. He said he had to learn to love the thing he most wished never happened. I'm naming this ideation the taming of the bear that is trauma. Many of us know from experience that if you run from this bear every day, you'll be mauled by it every night during the frequent pity parties you throw for yourself. We need to turn around and face it, embrace it with love and compassion, and we need to forgive ourselves for allowing these circumstances to cripple our ability to show ourselves self-love and self-compassion. And to follow this, I'm going to provide a way to practice seeing your issues in a new light. Life is a delightfully exquisite sunrise, or a sunset if you're not a morning person. If this statement sounds misleading, let me ask you this. What is it that makes the scene so marvelous? Does the beauty emanate from the sun or the clouds? In my experience, the most spectacular looking sunrises and sunsets have a whole lot of both. There are streaks of light streaming out from over and under the clouds, and the clouds are many different colors. And those colors are constantly shifting as the sun rises changing and shifting as the sun rises higher or sets lower. The same goes for life. The colors you get from your bruises, whether to your ego or not, are just as important as the colors you get from blushing with nervous euphoria during a first date with someone you fancy. You can't create a masterpiece without the juxtaposition of light and dark. To improve upon this image, picture yourself as the sun, with the strength and power to paint the clouds and send out streaks of light along the horizon. Imagine that the storm has passed, and now you can create your own marvelous sunrise or sunset. I've chosen to use humor as one of my colors. Before moving into my closing share, I want to express the problem with pity. Pity is unhelpful because, while it seems related to compassion, there is one big difference. And that is when you pity yourself or someone else, you are acknowledging and therefore reinforcing the false identity of victimhood. Compassion offers empathy with the knowledge that the person can step into their own power whenever they are ready to. Now, I have promised some humor on this page and have yet to deliver, so here we go. To understand the punchline of this, my former name is Charlotte. Here we go. It's awfully hard to find a date-worthy man when half the world has you pegged as a lesbian and the other half calls you sir. Don't you dare start feeling sorry for me in what I've dubbed as my safety features, the short hair and the baggy clothes and the lack of makeup. I thoroughly enjoy this version of myself and have found it quite hilarious to be mistakenly called sir. It has allowed me to envision my upcoming and highly unanticipated rise into knighthood. Sir Charlotte here to topple the patriarchy. Episode 5. At the tail end of the prior episode, I alluded to my preferred gender expression, and I feel like it's the perfect segue into discussing my gender identity. Before I dive fully into the topic, however, I want to remind those who are unfamiliar with the intricacies of gender identity that what holds true for my experience will not necessarily hold true for someone else's. In my own particular case, I feel that it is accurate to say that I have a trauma-informed gender identity. I am non-binary and use they/them pronouns. Since my biological father taught me early on that it is not safe to exist as a girl or a woman, I do not have any inclination to present as a woman. I want first and foremost to be treated like a human being, but many will only decide on how to treat you once they identify your gender. I have no desire to play this game with anyone. I belong to me, my body belongs to me, and my gender should have nothing to do with another person's willingness to decide to respect this truth. High school experiences reinforced the lesson my biological father taught me. Given both the degree of trauma and given my assigned gender and my slender physique, I have never truly felt safe in this world. I have been subconsciously and at times even consciously waiting to be killed my whole life. I have felt like an insignificant bug on someone's window, waiting to be inevitably squashed by a scared, ignorant human. But there is some good news. This has not stopped me from doing some incredible things in my brief 32 years. In 2016, I completed a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail, and my trek ended up in another thru hiker's blog that became a book. I was invited into a podcast about the Appalachian Trail, and I was in a very small segment of a documentary about women thru hiking the Appalachian Trail. 18 months after that journey, I went vagabonding in Europe for 8 months. And now here I am, pretending not to be mortified of the camera. So I guess I turned out all right anyway. And you did too. Even if you didn't do all these things, just choosing to live when you have wanted to die makes you more brave than those who don't have the same demons to face. Be proud of yourself for making it this far with me. Episode 6, we're already there. Today, in this episode, I want to start with one of the ways in which I would define insanity. To me, insanity is witnessed anytime someone's emotions sit in the driver's seat and make decisions for them they wouldn't otherwise make. When our emotions reach an inconsolable climax, we may lash out at others or sabotage our lives in other ways. I have been guilty of this a lot while navigating the latest Dark Night of the Soul. But I needn't be overly critical of myself here. I was never taught how to regulate strong, uncomfortable emotions because my developmental years were deprived of instances of co-regulation, even when I needed it most. Neither of my caregivers were capable of providing us with that form of support. So why should I expect myself to sail through a severe thunderstorm without having learned how to sail on calmer seas? So, when the Dark Night of the Soul began, my inner 2-year-old was brought to the fore and expressed all of the abject terror I must have felt when the traumatic experience was fresh. It felt like I was drowning, and while I was lucky enough to have someone in my life who cared enough to try to console me, I quickly became the drowning child who puts the lifeguard at risk by continuing to flail. I kept flailing because even with the shoulder to cry on, the drowning sensation persisted. Somewhere in the course of all this, I was asked, what do I get out of this behavior? And my instant response was, a drowning person doesn't see oxygen as a payoff. A drowning person isn't flailing for attention, they're flailing for oxygen. Anyway, it wasn't until much later that I could deconstruct the question and my emotions enough to see a different answer. Now, I want to clarify both of these answers are true. So, the truth of the matter was that I have truly felt like the world and maybe even everyone in it owed me for how traumatic my childhood was. That has been the reason I've wanted my pain to be seen. It seemed to me that my profound pain gave me the right to act out in some way. I kept losing my sanity because of my inability to notice the dichotomy within. I desired to be altruistic above all else and was therefore never able to acknowledge the truth of my motives. I take it that is what Carl Jung meant when he said, we will become our opposite if we do not learn to accommodate the opposition within us. It is tough work to reconcile our contradictory intentions. Our souls desire one thing, and our emotionally wounded egos desire quite another. My inner child wrote and performed numerous sabotage scripts during this time in an effort to prove to me that this person I cared so much about didn't love me unconditionally, and was willing to abandon me. For those of us with developmental trauma, it often feels impossible to rewire our brains to think healthful and helpful thoughts. We are, in a way, trying to reroute the Colorado River to be outside of the Grand Canyon. I'm not saying this to be discouraging, but to encourage you all to give yourself more compassion, patience, and grace. This is not a small undertaking, but it starts with small steps. And I hope I can provide some guidance on how to navigate this journey humanity is on as a whole.